functionalnutritionistdenver.com, where we are reaching now at least 175,000 globally, which is super fun because I think we've got some really cool things to say, some cool things to chat about, some good information that is always important to living a good, healthy, full life, the God-intended life that we were put here to live. And so it's always my goal to do my best to bring to you what I believe based in, that is evidence-based, not just what I believe, but evidence-based, what is the best at health, at wellness, and as we all know, health and wellness is, of course, physical, mental, emotional. It's also spiritual, financial, relational. It's all of the things. I think that we have an amazing opportunity in this life to serve, to love, to give. And what I know is that there are things that can get in the way of that. Where, if it's symptoms, if it's stresses, if it's, some things in life just get in the way of us doing the best that we can and feeling the best that we can. And so I like to bring resources to you that you may or may not know about, that is outside of the conventional. And I have the amazing, gift, but it's not my gift, but the gift that I have a lot of really great people who I have access to who do some great things and are out there who are on a mission just as I am to serve and to build up and to grow health of ourselves and of course of our communities. And so today, as always, we want to start with gratitude. And I think that I'm going to be sort of simple today. I want to be a little bit simple because since it's just me, usually I bring people on with me, which is always super fun. But when I get to come on by myself, it does a couple of things. It helps to strengthen my ability to speak for an hour. I'm not a natural, I'm not one of those who can just go out and just chitty chat and talk and talk and talk. And so it's a strengthening tool for me. It is training for me. It is the ability to just, get up and get out there and put out the things that I want to say that I think are important and give as much as I can possibly give. But it also gets me outside of my comfort zone, which is what I believe to be really important, is getting outside of your comfort zone. It's what helps us grow. It's what helps us to build character. And if we mess up, which I tend to mess up a lot, then we grow from it and we learn from it, and that's what it's all about. So I'm grateful to have this platform to be able to give my knowledge, but also to learn. I have people who reach out to me, who teach me always. The guests who I bring on always are teaching me, and that's what I want in life, is to learn and to be educated and to have the ability to discern what is right and wrong, what is good and maybe not so good, and then also the ability to know when something is no longer right or things are changing. In the world of science, which is not really truly science anymore, I don't think, but in the world of science, that's what it's all about. That's what it's supposed to be, is we change with data, and we continue to research, and then we continue to change with data. And we are not supposed to bring a lot of bias into this data, right? The science is about wonder and learning and bringing in knowledge, and then bringing more knowledge into what we've learned so we can continue to learn and grow from that. So that was a really long way of saying that I'm super grateful for where I am today, being in this place. So today, we talk a lot about fertility, and we're fertility and infertility, as well as preconception planning, which is really where my sweet spot is. It's the preconception planning. What does that mean? This is the time, whether you're 2 years out or whether you're at that point where you're going through IVF, or fertility treatments. All of this time, this is the time to take it to step back, if possible and when possible, to take the time to create your own health, to build on your own health. If you are already healthy, then optimize. If you have some symptoms, then do the things that you can do to decrease those symptoms, because symptoms are a warning signal, right? They're a sign. They're telling you something's up. I always like to, it's the knocking on the door and saying, hey, there's something going on, and I need you to fix it. The body's talking to you, right? We've sort of forgotten how to listen to our bodies, and so we go and we take an ibuprofen, which was something we're going to hit on here in a little bit, or we cover it up with alcohol or whatever the case may be, instead of paying attention to it and saying, this is something that I need to address because the body is talking to me. So taking that step back and saying, what is it trying to say? What's going on? How do I find the tools, the team, the people to help me understand what it is that these symptoms are, allow them to then for us to control them or minimize them or make them go away entirely, in order to be as healthy as we can to plan for getting pregnant. And so my job, of course, is digging for the root cause. And so when someone comes to me, whether it's for preconception planning, whether it's for all-out fertility, whether it's for GI dysfunction or autoimmune conditions or whatever the case may be, it's not just about we're looking at the autoimmune disease or we're looking at the pain in the gut or we're looking at the lack of estrogen and progesterone, whatever the case may be. It's we are getting as deep as we possibly can to understand why these things are happening. They don't just happen; they happen for a reason. And so, with testing, with understanding lifestyle factors, with digging as deep as we can, trauma, intense stressors, these things all have such an amazing impact on the body, on hormones, on the way our different organ systems function, on the way our brain functions. So it's important to take a step back, dig as deep as we can, address from the bottom up. So if you are picturing a tree, you've got the roots down here, and of course all the leaves and branches up here. If you have the roots down here, this is where dysfunction starts, right? This is where dis-ease starts, is down here. And so all the things that are down here, sleep and stress and food and exercise and the infection and these things that can create dysfunction from the root. So as we address those, then the body has the ability to address the rest as we go up the trunk and into the leaves, and it can grow its beautiful green leaves just as it's supposed to, right? So if we take that and look at the body, if all of the root cause issues are being addressed, then we have the ability to absorb nutrients. We have the ability to even break food down in order to absorb nutrients. We have the ability to sleep well, to exercise, to handle and mitigate stress, handle traumas that we've had in the past. And sometimes it takes a team of people to help us do all of those things. But that's always the goal. So today, although, we often, many times we're talking about women, and that's kind of, as a society, that's sort of what we do, is we put a lot of the planning, the fertility stuff on women, when really, as I was doing some research for this talk today, it's 40% man, as far as dysfunction goes, right? It's the 40% male, 40% female, and then 20% other factors. And so we shouldn't only focus on, when it comes to fertility, just women. We need to focus on men and male health as well, and male fertility. And this one is for Henry, because I came in this morning and he says, all you have to do is say fertility, male fertility, and then Latin lover, drop the mic. There you go, Henry. It's all we need to know. Henry is the epitome of the Latin lover. Anyway, so if you don't know Henry, he is the owner of the station and the guru behind all of the techie stuff. He's amazing, and the reason why I'm here. He and, of course, Lowell Whiteman. If you don't know Lowell, you should. So, let's dig in, because even Latin lovers can have some fertility issues. It's just the way that it goes, especially in the world that we're living in today. We have a lot of stuff going on. I have a lot of stats, a lot of things to kind of work through. So one of the things that I want to point out, so bear with me as we kind of go through this, because there's a lot, and yes, I have to wear my glasses. So there was a study done, let's see, a review of 61 papers, and there were almost 15,000 participants in this study. And sperm concentration, let's see, it was from 1940 to 1990, okay? So in this period of time, sperm concentration decreased from 153, where do my numbers come from? This is a problem here. So 113 million milliliters to 66. 113 to 66. It's, I mean, how do you even comprehend that number? So average seminal volume decreased from 3.4 milliliters to 2.75. Average sperm count decreased from, let's see, 384.2 million to 181.5 million. It's a 52.8 decrease. So these numbers are staggering. They're also a little bit fascinating. Where do these numbers, how does this happen? And these are the things that we want to dig into. So I want to read some more stats to you. So there was a time, let's see, so this is up until 1990. And so then, let's see, we have between 1973 to 2011, a study was done. There was 7,500 studies that were published that looked at sperm counts and concentrations. And it was a meta-analysis of 185 studies. And of course, they eliminated men who they were known to be infertile. And so these were 43,000 men in 50 different countries. So this is not just the United States. And of course, this is a global show, so it's super relevant. So what they found was 60% decline in total sperm count over nearly 4 decades. And interesting too, the studies were published after 1995. So really what we're looking at is 1995 to 2011, 60% decline in total sperm count. It's just massive. And so here's another interesting point that I hadn't realized, but it makes sense, is the decrease in sperm count is a potential indicator of the increased risk of premature death. They're calling it kind of the canary in the cave, right? Or the canary in the coal mine. And so if sperm count is decreasing, why? These are the things that we want to cover. And if this is happening, it's correlated to a higher risk of death or early death. And so we want to look at the reasons behind this. And it's not anything new, right? Well, I mean, it's new to our society over the last 40, 50, 60 years as far as the toxicants in our environments, the inflammatory responses, the inability for our bodies to handle the massive amount of change in toxicants in the air, the amazing amount of stress that we deal with as humans. They're always stressors, but historically, if you look at stress, historically we have a time where we are calm and then you have crazy stressors, right? And then you become calm again, as long as you're still alive. So I'm thinking like, our ancient, caveman days, right? So you go out, things are fine, you go hunting, then you get hunted, right? So that's when your cortisol levels spike. But then, as long as you get away and no longer being hunted, you get your own kill, then everything goes back down and is normal again. But what we're finding today is cortisol levels don't go back down, so they're remaining chronically elevated. This is creating a chronically elevated, chronic inflammatory response. And so what happens was so interesting, and to me, biochemistry is super fascinating. It's super cool. It's amazing how outside factors, inside factors, all affect biochemistry. And so when it comes to just cortisol itself, or just the stress response, what happens is we're supposed to have a normal, natural stress response, right? We get stressed, cortisol goes up, stress goes away, cortisol goes down, and it's fine. Where we are today, being a little bit repetitive, but where we are when that cortisol goes up and back up. Cortisol, when it's elevated for short periods of time, is anti-inflammatory, right? So it's supposed to happen. It's supposed to create a response where the body has the ability to do the things that it needs to do. Think about the people who pick up cars off of kids when they fall, or off of other people, or these amazing feats that people have the ability to do under other circumstances they wouldn't be able to do. So this is the ability of the body, and the magic of our stress hormones is it creates an anti-inflammatory response, and we can do the things that we need to do. It pushes the blood out to the extremities, and the body works well under stress. But it also then takes the blood from the core and is pushing it out to the extremities. So when we are chronically stressed, we have chronically elevated cortisol, the blood chronically remains at the extremities and it doesn't stay at the core. So it brings us to a place where we're unable to break down our food. It then also becomes inflammatory. So we stay chronically stressed, chronically inflamed, and then it's this downward spiral of chronic stress, chronic inflammation, chronic stress, chronic inflammation. One begets the other. And then what happens, it goes, out from there to, potentially, leaky gut syndrome or intestinal permeability, to autoimmune conditions, to cardiovascular disease, to stroke, to Alzheimer's, all the things that we deal with today that are lifestyle diseases have the potential of coming from this cascade of events from chronic stress. Just having infection is stressful, can create chronic stress. Relationships can create chronic stress. Other diseases, again, that cascade, that downward spiral could create more chronic stress. And so if you don't get control of that, it affects everything, including sperm count, sperm motility, the volume of seminal fluid. All of these things are affected. It affects our hormones, so testosterone can go down. For women, our estrogens can go all over the place. And so, and stress from our environment, from EMFs, from the toxicants in the air, from the toxicants that are in our home, all of these things create more and more and more stress. And so, when we talk about mitigating stress, we have to not only think about, yes, I need to mitigate stress by prayer, by meditation, by being still. All of those things are very, very important. But we have to think about, if we're having other symptoms, what are causing those other symptoms, right? So is there an infection going on? Is there a problem in the in any relationship, whether it's kids, parents, work relationships, right? All of these things can continue to create that downward spiral. So getting back to the data here a little bit is, what we really the big takeaway is kind of what I've already been hitting on, is that so much of our environment, what we deal with today, is what's creating this decrease in our sperm counts. Our bodies aren't able to handle it, but we can mitigate it. That's the beautiful thing about it, is we can turn it around. And that's the whole point of, of Soulful Conception, my program Soulful Conception, is turning it around. It's not always easy, but it can be done. And so taking the time to get as healthy as you possibly can for men, for women, as you come together, let's get healthy, because that is what is going to move into literally your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren and on and on. So one of the things that is quoted here is the increasing rate of male infertility is that the changes are happening too quickly to be attributed to genetics. There are a lot of people who like to blame what's going on genetics. And so let's talk about that for a minute. Genetics are about genetic abnormalities are probably about 5% of the issues, the diseases, the conditions that we deal with today. 3 to 5%. Everything else is lifestyle induced. And so when we take that into consideration, what that does is it puts the accountability on us, which is beautiful, right? I mean, we don't always want to be accountable for ourselves, but that's why we're here, is to be accountable for ourselves and accountable to our families, and then teach our kids to be accountable to themselves and then accountable to their families, right? I mean, that's the whole, one of the main goals of life is knowing that I had the freedom and the accountability to do what I need to do for me and to take care of me, and then to build my team to help me take care of me. And so, this is getting into what I love about Soulful Conception, and what I love about accountability is epigenetics. And if we haven't talked about epigenetics already, or we've talked about it, if you haven't heard me talk about epigenetics already, epigenetics is locations on top of genes that have the ability to turn on and off due to lifestyle factors. And when they turn on and off, this is how genes express. So they are the sort of the caretaker of gene expression. And so we have the ability to look at labs, to look at epigenetic variants in a lab report to see what your potential is. Now, the symptoms are what are more important. We want to compare symptoms, we want to compare lifestyle, and then we want to compare that to lab reports, and then we can look at epigenetic variants. And so we can see that in your family, maybe there is trauma, right? We can see there are trauma genes that we can see from decades behind us. It's really amazing, actually. Hard for me to understand, but it's true. But also, we can see if we have the potential for autoimmune disease. So for me specifically, I've talked about being gluten-free. Interestingly, I have recently taken in a little bit of gluten and not had a reaction, which is super cool. But we have to take everything into consideration. And what I know about my own epigenetic makeup is I have the potential for autoimmune disease, and I have the potential for celiac disease. So why would I continue gluten, right? So this is a really amazing tool to understand, get a feel for what your potential is, and then how to mitigate it in the future. I see this in clients, right? We see that they have symptoms. We start to address the symptoms. We bring in the epigenetic variants. We look at that. And it's the most amazing feeling in the world when you know that the likelihood of them at this point, now that we've addressed all of these things, the likelihood of them expressing these terrible conditions later in life, a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years down the road, can be mitigated. It's amazing. we can look at the Alzheimer's genes, and those can be mitigated. It's hard, but it can be done. So if we start early, if we have as much information as possible, and we start early and get healthy now, we can mitigate these possibilities, the potentiality of these variants expressing later in life and then generations ahead. It's beautiful, it's fascinating, it's amazing. It's not hard, it just takes will, right? And again, it goes back to, our will in life is to do really big, beautiful things, and I think that's a part of it for most of us anyway. I'm not everybody, everybody's not me, but it really comes down to the fact it's the amount of control that we have as individuals. I think so often we feel like we've lost control because we have these symptoms, or we have Alzheimer's in the family, or we have diabetes in the family, or we have cardiovascular disease in the family. All of these things can make us feel like, well, that's just the way that it's going to be, when that's not the case. The control is, so much of it is in our hands. Not entirely, but so much of it is in our hands. 90% of it. That's a lot, right? So taking that control, taking hold of it, and really understanding that you have the power as the individual. And again, sometimes I think that the individual believes, well, I can't do anything, but maybe all these other people can as a group. It really comes down to the individual. So know that, take it, love on it, and take that power, because you have so much power. It's really amazing. I'll get off my soapbox for a second because it's just so important to understand, right? Okay. So one of the things that I talk about a lot, but I think we can't talk about it enough, because we are surrounded by what's called endocrine disruptors, and it affects men, it affects women, it affects children, and it affects our fertility. It affects our women's hormones and ovulation. It affects men's hormones and testosterone production and sperm production. And so endocrine disruptors, they're everywhere. And what that means, so we have what's called, they're estrogen mimickers. And so we can call them xenoestrogens. They're chemicals that act as estrogens in the body. They're metalloestrogens, so they're heavy metals that act like estrogens in the body. And what they do is they bind on to estrogen receptor sites. We have estrogen receptor sites all over our body, I think on every cell of our body. This is for men and for women. And they bind really tightly, which doesn't allow for our own estrogens to bind to those sites, which creates massive hormonal shifts and dysfunction. And we can see this in women when it comes to this really debilitating PMS symptoms that they have. We can see this in men who become soft, and they start to have, they don't really grow breasts, but there's some breast tissue there because of this excess estrogen. And so testosterone's going down. And another piece of that really, really is important is when men have what we would call a beer belly, or this excess adipose tissue around the gut, what happens, and it happens in women too, this is not just for men, for women, but it's a big problem for men, is if they're making testosterone and they have this excess adipose tissue, fat, right, that is another endocrine gland in and of itself. Fat tissue, so hormones are communicators, right? So the fat tissue is creating hormones, and it's creating estrogen. So they may be making their testosterone, but it's aromatizing into estrogen. So their estrogen levels go up. And so testosterone's going down, estrogen's going up. So men then decide, well, I need to go get testosterone injections, but they're not addressing their lifestyle factors, right? So they go get more testosterone they're not fully tested for all the other hormones, so then they're getting more testosterone, and then their estrogen just continues to go up, right? And so we have to make sure that we're addressing lifestyle factors. I'm not at all opposed to bioidentical hormones. I am opposed to chemical hormones, pharmaceutical hormones, but bioidentical hormones have a place and can be anti-aging, they can be anti-inflammatory, they can be really helpful and successful for a lot of reasons. But we have to make sure that we are reducing inflammation, we're reducing sugar, we're reducing the intake of unhealthy oils, because all of these things increase inflammation, increasing adipose tissue, this gut fat, increasing the conversion or the aromatization of testosterone into estrogen. So if you are a man out there and you're hearing what I'm saying, then make sure that you're going to someone who is testing all of the relevant hormones, testing your estrogens, making sure that you're addressing your lifestyle. If you're not, and you're not seeing success with your testosterone, bioidentical testosterone, then understand that there's a reason for it. Okay, we have to address the lifestyle always. And so we're looking at things like endocrine-disrupting chemicals, phthalates, which are in plastics. Phthalates can, so let's see, I have some, phthalates are used as plasticizers to increase flexibility of toys, vinyl flooring, electric cables, medical devices, solvents, perfumes, lotions, cosmetics. I mean, phthalates are in everything. Think about what you're putting on your body. Think about what you're putting in your body. Think about if you're microwaving your food and you're microwaving it in plastic. So toxic. Think about the plastics that you're using to store your food. Think about if you have warm food and you're putting it into a plastic bag in order to store it. You're just pulling all of these toxins. I think more of this is going to be the BPA, but you're pulling all of these toxins, all of these plastics into your food, and it's creating massive hormonal disruptions. And so phthalates themselves decrease sperm concentration, sperm motility, and decrease FSH and LH in men. So FSH is follicle stimulating hormone, and LH is luteinizing hormone. These are hormones that both men and women produce, but important in men as well. So phthalates are important, and then we have the PCBs, which are associated with decreased sperm motility, sperm morphology, which is the problem with the physical, the form of the sperm itself. Let's see, DNA integrity, higher fragmentation, lower circulating testosterone levels, and then studies with differing levels of exposure all consistently display effect on sperm motility with proportional effects. So then we can go into, triclosan. Triclosan is the antimicrobial, antibacterial that you see in soaps. You'll also find it in, antibacterial, like the gels. You'll find it in cosmetics and lotions. Triclosan is a problem. What we're seeing, if you haven't already heard this is not new, but people are still using it all the time, especially during and now post-COVID. The constant inundation of triclosan and these antiviral and antimicrobial lotions and gels and soaps and things we're using all the time. We're putting it on our skin, putting it on our body. What goes on our body goes in our body. So you can imagine if we're constantly using antimicrobials, what's it doing? It's completely disrupting our microbiome. If it's going to kill on the outside of the skin, it's going to kill on the inside of the body. And we have to take that into consideration, because our microbiome is who we are. It's our personality. It's our immune system. It's so much of our neurotransmitter production, our happy hormones, our serotonin. These things are so important to our life and who we are. And if our microbiome is not optimal, at minimum, It can create, symptoms, but at maximum, we've got a lowered immune system, we've got depression and anxiety, we've got, cardiovascular disease, you name it. Our microbiome is what is our protector. We have, we're just little bug carriers is really all we are. We've got bugs on our skin, we've got bugs in our body, we've got our oral microbiome, we've got our important, women, our vaginal bugs, very important. I know it sounds gross, but it's the way that it is. It's very important, and we have to have it all in balance, and we have to have it, we have to work as a team, right? We always talk about a team, but we got to work as a team with our bugs and support them and give them what they need in order for them to keep us healthy and keep us going. And so triclosan is a problem. Wash your hands. Just don't use the antimicrobials. It is just as beneficial to wash your hands. What is it? It's the say the ABCs, or it's the happy birthday, or whatever it is, using warm water and good healthy soap, right? We don't need all the antimicrobials. Every now and then, fine, but doing it every day, all day long is a huge problem, creates a huge problem, and it's a huge burden. And then, of course, along the same lines is getting into the pesticides and the herbicides. You hear me talk about this all the time. But if it's killing bugs, if we eat it, it's going to kill bugs, right? So pesticides, we've got these. If you go to, sorry, I'm losing my words. EWG, so is environmentalworkinggroup.com. They're an amazing resource. If you don't know about them, go to them. You can put in a single food, you can put in a single ingredient, you can put in a single ingredient to body care products, to what you're cleaning your home with, to what you wash your clothes with. You can put in brand names with all the ingredients already there, and it will come back and it'll give you a rating on it, tell you how healthy it is. It'll tell you why it gave you the rating, and it really is a really great resource. But it has the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. But know this, right? So this is strictly talking about foods that are the cleanest and the not clean. As far as when it comes to pesticides and herbicides, it's not talking about organic. Know that if you're eating foods that have been sprayed, no matter what, even if you clean them off, the pesticides and herbicides are in the ground. So what's in the ground? You've got the root system that's in the ground. The root system is going to take those up, and it's going to be in every single cell of that plant, right? So you have the pesticides and the herbicides in the cells of the fruit and of the vegetable. So yes, you want to wash them off. You want to try to get your fruit and vegetables as clean as you can. Not everybody can do organic. Not everybody can grow their own food. But your best bet is going to be to know your food locally and buy organic when you can. And if you look at the Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen, it's a new list every year. You have an idea of the foods that are going to be the safest and those that are not. And it's just a great resource and something to go by if you're not able to do organic all the time. We eat food constantly, right? Sometimes it's once a day, sometimes it's 4 or 5 or 6 times a day. A little bit goes a long way. There was, this quote here: even teeny doses of exposure can have serious effects, but it can be years, even decades, until health impact fully manifests. So, there are a lot who believe that a little bit of pesticide, a little bit of herbicide is not going to hurt us. And there will be the companies who will lead you to believe that the pesticides and the herbicides go away and they don't affect us. This is absolutely incorrect. It's a sad state that we are consistently lied to like this, but we are. And so we have to, again, it goes back to taking accountability, do your own research. I'm here to give you the information that I have, but go do your own research. It's not just about me. Go to other people, go to other sources, but there's a lot of really great information out there. Interestingly, male infertility has increased in the last 4 decades around the same time that powerful pesticides have come into play. Interesting point, right? So something certainly to take into consideration. As pesticides came in and are being used over the last 40, 50 years to extreme amounts, our male fertility rates have gone down, well, and of course female as well. So this is one that I think is, let's see, I have pages here. So I'm going to hit the high points. I'm going to start hitting on the high points. These are things that we can do, that we can address. But I want to talk about sunscreen, because we have this fear of sun, and sun is this God-given gift of life. It's not to be feared. It's to be respected, but it is not to be feared. We have to have the sun. If we have an autoimmune condition, we have to have the sun. Get out in the sun. Don't wear sunscreen. If you're dark complected, you can stay out in the sun longer. If you're light complected, you need to stay out in the sun less long. Getting a little bit pink is not a big deal. It's a good thing, right? It's a good thing to get a little bit pink. It's not a good thing to get burned, right? It's not a good thing to get blistered. We have to respect the sun, but it's important to know your limits, but get out and get in the sun. Don't be afraid of it. Wear a hat. When it comes to, wear a hat, wear clothing if you need to, whatever it takes. But wear as little sunscreen as possible. And if you do wear sunscreen, make sure it's mineral based. Make sure it's safe. It's the UV filters that are found in sunscreens that can impair male fertility, right? So we have this benzophenone that is a problem. It has both estrogenic and anti-androgenic activity. So estrogenic meaning it's the estrogen mimicker. Anti-androgenic meaning that it is decreasing the amount of male hormones. Androgenic hormones are the more masculine hormones. So testosterone, androstenedione, all of those are androgenic hormones, and really important for men, obviously. Let's see, a study of 501 couples assessed urinary levels of several different types of BP chemicals, which is the benzophenone, in men's urine. Let's see, with the highest concentrations, had a decreased rate of getting pregnant. Anyway, there are some stats here. The importance of it is with the highest levels of these chemicals were decreased, was increased, increased infertility or decreased fertility. Get my words right. So watching what you're putting on your skin, watching what you're cleaning your clothes with, watching what you're cleaning your home with, all of these have estrogenic activity. All of these can put a toxic burden on the liver. All of these can impact female hormones, male hormones, you name it. They can create big problems. So I'm not going to hit on this because you know it. Smoking. Smoking is not good. Don't smoke. It's not going to help your fertility. Ibuprofen. Ibuprofen is a big one. So in 2018, there was a Danish study that showed identifying chronic ibuprofen use as a possible male infertility trigger. Regular use impacted testosterone production. And so it was a 6-week study, and it was, I think it was 200 or 400 milligrams of ibuprofen over a 6-week period of time, which decreased testosterone production. That's such a problem. We have a huge problem with testosterone not being at optimal levels, and we need testosterone to be at optimal levels. We need men to be men. We need men to have testosterone. Women need testosterone as well. Yes, not to the extent, but we need to have. This needs to be changed. I think that it is creating a huge problem in our society because these testosterone levels are dropping so much. So we talked a little bit about stress already. I think I'm going to skip that. I jumped into that early, but stress, it affects all of these hormones that we're talking about. It reduces mitochondrial function, which affects testosterone production, affects sperm production, affects sperm motility, all the things that we're talking about. It's so important to mitigate your stress the best that you possibly can, but making sure that you are identifying what is causing the stress, right? Physical, mental, emotional, what's causing the stress. Obesity. Obesity is a big one. I think it's not a surprise. But it's getting into what is it that we're eating. We've come to this place where we don't know sometimes the difference between real food and fake food. Fake food doesn't have the ability to support us like real food does. And it's a lot of what we're eating. We had on Sherry Hess last week. If you didn't see it, watch it. The show last week was amazing. But in talking about the fake food and the tricks that it plays on the body, the high sugar consumption playing tricks on the brain, right? High sugar increases in the inflammatory response. The inflammatory response increases stress. Stress reduces. Stress shrinks the brain. So again, going back to that vicious cycle, right? And so the things that are so often that we don't see as really that bad, that really are that bad, are the processed meats. So the processed meats, your typical conventional hot dogs. Now, most people like hot dogs, right? But the hot dogs that I get, they're grass-fed, right? It's meat and it's fat. That's what's in it, and some seasonings. But your conventional hot dogs made from unhealthy animals with unhealthy preservatives, nitrates, nitrites, these things are all super carcinogenic and create lots of problems for the body, create inflammation. And the additives are just sort of that, straw on the camel's back, right? It's straw that broke the camel's back. So processed meats are a big problem. So real quick, nitrates and nitrites are preservatives. They're chemical preservatives. They come originally from celery, right? So celery can be used as a preservative. But you take the chemical nitrates and nitrites and you heat them. So think about bacon, think about your pastrami, think about your ham that you're buying from the store that is your deli meat. You heat it up. Those nitrates and nitrites with the heat are converted into nitrosamines, which are then carcinogenic. And they're massive carcinogens. So I'm not saying don't eat bacon. I'm also not saying don't eat deli meat. What I am saying is know where it's coming from, know what's in them, look at the ingredients. Don't buy them from your regular everyday store. If you do, make sure, I'll take that back. Your regular everyday stores are learning, which is awesome. And it's because of us. It's because we're like, we don't want any more trash food. We want good food. We want healthy food. We want food that comes from the land. We want food that comes from healthy animals. So they're starting to get it because we're pushing it. And we need to keep that momentum going and keep pushing and keep pushing. But we're seeing healthier foods, healthier animals, healthier meats coming into our everyday grocery store. And so just take the time to look, right? It is a little bit of a process, but take the time because your health depends on it, which means your life depends on it. The health of your family and the lives of your family depends on it as well. It's that important. Don't think that it's not. Interestingly, grains may increase cortisol and estrogen, leading to infertility issues. So this is all grains. Now, some people I think can handle grains better than other people. Here in the United States, gluten, which is it's a protein in wheat, it is inflammatory no matter what. We've taken it, we've hybridized it, we've increased the gluten content. I don't have really the time to get into that right now, except for understanding that gluten in the United States and in other surrounding countries is a big problem. It creates an inflammatory response. It creates intestinal permeability. the pesticides and the herbicides on it in and of itself create intestinal permeability leading to autoimmune conditions, right? So beyond just the hybridization of it, they're high in pesticides and herbicides. If you are going to do grains, the best way to do grains is by sprouting them. Organic grains, either buy them already sprouted or you can sprout them yourself and then eat them. That way you're decreasing the anti-nutrients in them, you're buying organic so you're not getting the pesticides and the herbicides. You know, there was a time that bread was actually healthy. And I think when it's made properly today, it can be as well. So we're looking at sourdough bread made from heirloom wheat, right? It's got normal amounts of gluten in it. That has been fermented, right? That's the sourdough part of it, which then decreases. Maybe in some it eliminates. I say decreases because celiacs, I would say don't eat sourdough bread. Maybe some might be able to, right? But it decreases the amount of gluten, which is really cool stuff, right? So sourdough bread can be a healthy alternative. I don't think it should be a staple, but it can be a healthy alternative. We also have really, really great gluten-free breads. There's one called Base Culture that I love. It's nut-based, gluten-free. It's really amazing. Shout out to Base Culture for doing really good stuff out there. Let's see. Sugar. Do I have to say any more, right? So all sugar is a problem. So if you're eating fruit, too much fruit for some people can be a problem. If you're dealing with blood sugar imbalances, then yeah, it's a problem, and it's going to create more inflammation. So you've got to be really, really careful with that. But the sugar that we have today, the white sugar, even too much coconut sugar, too much molasses, these things, we are not meant to eat a lot of sugar. Small amounts of sugar. Eat your fruit. It has created this situation where we are no longer sensitive to sugar. So we need more and we need more and we don't taste it. One of my favorite things in practice when I'm working with clients is when they come back and they say, I am amazed at how sweet a strawberry is. I am amazed at how sweet a blueberry is. I didn't know it was as sweet as it is. It's phenomenal. I put a pineapple in my mouth yesterday and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so sweet. When you eat sugar in normal amounts, which is very low amounts, you have a higher sensitivity to the sweetness of foods, and you don't need all of the excess sweet. It's really amazing to go back to the show that Sherry and I did last week, and really being able to taste the flavors of food when it's real food and not chemically altered. It's really beautiful. One of the most amazing joys of life is being able to taste and enjoy food. It's just beautiful. It really, really is. It's such a gift. We know that alcohol is inflammatory, right? It's a problem. Don't fall for, drinking a bunch of wine is, it's got flavonoids. It does, but you can get flavonoids without drinking a bunch of wine. Beer, hops increases estrogen. Hops increases adipose tissue, right? So beer can also be a problem. Don't get me wrong. I love beer. I don't drink beer anymore because I don't do gluten. Although every now and then I will have a good gluten-free beer. Shout out to Ricoli because that's our little local gluten-removed brewery, and they do amazing work. And then caffeine. Caffeine can create hormonal imbalances. I'm not saying stop your coffee, but I am saying make sure it's organic, make sure it's mycotoxin free. Lots of coffee is full of mycotoxins, okay? So mycotoxins being mold, which in and of itself can create huge problems. Epigenetically, some of us don't have the ability to eliminate mycotoxins like others, and that in and of itself can put a more of a stress on the body. Let's see, EMFs, mobile devices. Stop, for you men who want to be fertile, stop putting your phone in your pocket. Stop putting your laptop on your lap. right? You've got to protect your man parts. So be really, really careful with that, because those things are showing up more and more to be pretty toxic to our bodies, let alone our reproductive organs. Okay, so couple of things. We talked about mitigating these. You know, it's good for men. You know, take a good multivitamin, a good one. You know, don't go to the big box whatever store and just go grab a one day. Those can create more problems than good. You want to have a good multivitamin with CoQ10. CoQ10 is mitochondrial support, super important. A good fish oil and a good antioxidant support. This is very, very general. Another one I like maca. Maca is an herb. It's a little bit sweet. It's good. It can help to increase testosterone. It can be useful for women as well, but be careful. It can have a massive impact on hormones, pushing some symptoms. I experienced it. So just be aware of that. It takes tiny, tiny amounts. Also, ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is really fun because it's an adaptogenic herb that is really supportive for the adrenals. It's really supportive for our brain, our neurology. It really is an awesome, calming, adaptogenic type of herb, which means it balances, right? It goes to where it needs to be. It's really cool stuff. But it also can help increase testosterone. So it can be a good way of mitigating some stress and supporting stress while also increasing testosterone for both men and for women. But this is very general. So find somebody, ask me. I'm here to answer questions. I truly am. But find somebody who can help you with some of this stuff and give you some guidance. I want to hit on something that is a little bit outside of my knowledge base, but I think it's an important conversation to have, and I think it's important to bring up. When I was posting about this show, it was Sherry from last week. Again, watch the show from last week. It was really a fascinating show. But Sherry asked me to touch on fertility rates in men post-COVID and the way that COVID was handled. It's not always easy to find that kind of information, and I think that there's still some data coming out. But I think it is important to talk about a few things that maybe we don't know about, but that's out there that we have all the access to. So there are Pfizer documents out in the world, and so this isn't related to COVID itself, but more the vaccines. So there's the Pfizer documents that my understanding is we can all get hold of, so they're there, but that show that the vaccines harm the testes, and that they also have the potential of creating anti-sperm antibodies. What does that mean? It means it's an autoimmune response against sperm. It means the body goes and attacks sperm cells and kills them. What is that going to do? Well, it's certainly going to create a problem with fertility. Let's see. There's a report in June that showed 2 doses dropped fertility in men by 22%. 2 doses of the vaccine. And then boosters further reduced for concentration and motility. I have a note here, all Pfizer docs are readily available. And then there was a study done, let's see, Israeli researchers did a study and showed that the vaccines temporarily impair semen concentration and motility. Let's see, what else do we have here? So healthy young men were donating sperm. Their average age was 26. Again, this is an Israeli study. Lower sperm counts after the second dose of the vax on average. Let's see, it increased temperature, which can be a problem for sperm and for testes. It wasn't shown immediately after the boosters, or I'm sorry, after the vaccine, but it did show later in time. So when they looked 7 months, the later time frame and a significant decrease, so 20% less sperm in samples, and then 7 months out showed more issues. So I know again, this is kind of new to me in researching this, and it's just the start of a conversation, or it's the start of you going and looking deeper if that's something that you want to do. But it's important for those of you who are maybe struggling with fertility, who are looking to get pregnant. As you go through the process, you make your own decisions on what you do with your body. That's why we have these freedoms, why we should have these freedoms. We make our own decisions, but we want to make our decisions based on education. And some of the decisions you've already made, so are they affecting your fertility if you're struggling? Potentially. So, but is it possible, as long as your body's not attacking sperm cells, right? If you already are dealing with an autoimmune condition where your body's attacking sperm cells, that could it be reversed? Maybe. It's going to take some time. If so, all autoimmune conditions take time to reverse. But there are protocols for helping the body to repair after vaccines. There are protocols for supporting the body. Again, I'm not telling you one way or the other what you should or shouldn't do, but I am bringing the information to you. I think it needs to be shared, and I think that people need to know what impacts their life, right? These things impact our lives. These things impact who we are, who we want to be, and then who we want to create. We want to create little healthy humans, those of us who are in that age of creation, and we want to be aware. We want to be aware. That's really, it's education, it's knowledge. The more education and knowledge that we have, the better decisions we can make. And if we made decisions that maybe we're like, oh, beans, I wish I hadn't made that decision, well, then you have the knowledge and education to move forward. I mean, we all make decisions that we wish we hadn't made, in one way or another. And so in many different cases, right? It's not just this, and it's not just health and wellness, in many different cases. But having the knowledge, having the information moving forward, that's what's important. But that's life. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. That's how we build character, is by the past. We learn from our past. We learn from our own mistakes. We learn from others' mistakes, and we take that and we grow from it, and we take it forward, and then we teach it. And that's all that we can do. So with all of that being said, the last thing that I want to say, this is, I found it interesting. I don't know how relevant, but interesting, because, we talk a lot about ivermectin. We talk about the safety of ivermectin. And maybe it is. I mean, I have thought that it's a pretty safe drug. We give it to our animals all the time. I don't give it to my animals all the time. I think anything that is antimicrobial on a regular basis is still has toxicity potentials. But when necessary, sure. But one of the studies that was done, and this was long term, and when I say long term, I'm talking like it was 11 months in men. And so men were given ivermectin for 11-month period of time. Had nothing to do with COVID. It had to do with another infection. But it showed a decrease in sperm count, motility, morphology, that kind of thing. I'm not going to get into those details. I don't have a lot of those details, but the data is there. And so how does that impact the short amount of time that a lot of us used ivermectin for COVID? Don't really know, but it is something to be aware of for sure. They did a study in men, and of course in rats and in sheep, and again I think it was all long-term studies, but it did create a problem for the testes and for the sperm. So, I think that there are, in my understanding, just with those who I know who are in and practicing medicine, taking ivermectin on sort of a prophylactic basis, could that be problematic? Maybe. It's something to look into. We don't want to go into these things, with blinders on. We want to go in with our eyes as wide open as possible and with as much information as we can. So, it's something to look at. But the overarching message here is that we are men and women both are struggling with fertility pretty equally, and so much of it can be reversed. We have the ability to reverse these problems, and so go out, find somebody who can help you. And my alarm goes off. I guess it's time to stop the show. Anyway, find somebody who can help you. Find somebody who is there to give you guidance. I'm here, of course, and then there are lots of others who are here to help as well. So you can find me at tastelifenutrition.com. You can go. I have an assessment you can fill out both for Soulful Conception as well as just for any of my other services. We'll chat about it. We'll see how we might be able to help you. I'm always here to answer questions about Soulful Conception and preconception planning. It is what I was put here to do. So good stuff. I'm excited about it. Ask questions. Let's work together to create a healthy future, because it truly is in our hands. You can find me at Taste Life Nutrition on all of the social media. And Soulful Conception has, I believe, as of today or tomorrow, officially launched. And so we are moving forward into creating a healthy future. So, looking forward to seeing you next week, 10 a.m., of course, streaming live here on KUHSdenver.com, and then turning that into the Taste Life Nutrition podcast, where you can find it anywhere you find your favorite podcast. So we'll see you next week. See you later.